I will take significant convincing that your position is not now intolerable.
To respond to that, and quite rightly, I understand the feeling. As I said, I would like to have that conversation in private. I would like to meet with you as soon as possible. I'm now going to leave it to continue. Sorry. Point of order. No, come.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I just make a point of order that actually the amendment in the name of the Leader of the Opposition was this evening passed unanimously, and therefore...
This is the Shadow Leader of the House, Lucy Powell.
And therefore...
Order. I don't think now is the time, and what I want to do, I want to move on and I want to meet with the important players. I'm now going to hand over to the Deputy, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Deputy.
Well, that's quite a way to start the programme, isn't it? With the Speaker of the House of Commons addressing the Commons, apologising for a very controversial decision he made earlier. I thought he was close to tears on occasion there. And Stephen Flynn, the leader of the SNP in Westminster, he, as you just heard, he thinks that the Speaker's position is now untenable. Now, that's quite a thing for a party leader to say on the floor of the House of Commons. It's one of those days where the House of Commons has brought shame on itself in so many different ways today. It's acted like a student union debating chamber rather than the official parliament of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Very rowdy scenes. I mean, that's not unusual, you may say, but despicable scenes in some ways. And it was said earlier that the SNP had been treated badly. Neil O'Brien, the Conservative MP, said that in a point of order to the Deputy Speaker. And he's right. The SNP have been treated appallingly today. It was their opposition day. The Labour Party sought to hijack it. The Speaker, for whatever reason, I mean, it was speculated that somebody senior from the shadow cabinet was overheard in his office threatening him that he would not be Speaker if he didn't do this under a Labour government. Now, I have no idea whether that's true or not. It was reported by the political editor of Newsnight, Nick Watt, who's a journalist I respect. He must have got that from somewhere. But Lindsay Hoyle, as you just heard, say that he did it because he was worried about the safety of members of Parliament when they leave this chamber today, that if they didn't have their chance to vote for a full ceasefire, he feared for the consequences. Well, you make your own judgment, but the House of Commons has brought shame on itself today in so many ways. It was supposed to be a solemn debate about what's happening in Gaza, whether there should be an immediate ceasefire, a humanitarian ceasefire, a humanitarian pause. And you might think, well, that's dancing on the top of a pin, and you'd be absolutely right about that. And it would have absolutely no impact on the war in Gaza at all. It's self-indulgent political game playing, and all parties involved in it should be ashamed of themselves, in my view. Well, that's my view. I want to hear what you make of today's proceedings. A lot of you will have been following it throughout the course of the afternoon. I've been watching as much on the sort of parliamentary channel as I can, and it's really depressed me, actually, because I'm a great defender of the House of Commons. I'm a great defender of politicians in general. I'm a great defender of the profession of being a politician. But boy, have they let me down, they've let you down, they've let their country down today in the way that we've behaved. And you saw it there when Lindsay Hoyle was making a very solemn statement and was continually barracked and interrupted from all sides, actually. Natasha Clark joins me, LBC's political editor. We're doing a bit of overtime today. What do you make of all of this, Natasha?
I concur with you, Iain. I think that was really quite disgraceful behaviour from some of our politicians today, and it really did descend into a farce in the last few hours. Obviously palatable anger from all sides of the House, but especially from the SNP, and completely understandably so. The whole point of an opposition day debate is for the opposition to have their say, and they have had their voice effectively somewhat silenced today. I think it's fair to say they wanted to debate Israel and Gaza. That was what was on the Commons agenda for today. They wanted to vote for a ceasefire. They have every right to do so. And the Labour Party and their Commons Speaker have, some people are going to argue, taken their voice away and taken away that vote. And I can understand Speaker Hoyle's argument that what he really wanted was to give all MPs the decision to be able to basically say, look, I voted for my own party's position on a ceasefire. So the Conservative could say, I voted for a humanitarian pause. The Labour Party could say, I voted for a ceasefire. But actually, what Speaker Hoyle has done, rightly or wrongly, it has angered everybody on all sides of the House. And like you said, and I think Andrew said at the end of his show, that, Speaker Hoyle is generally respected by MPs from across the House. And this is probably the toughest day of his speakership so far. And I don't think he's ever faced quite such accusations of bias. And like I say, there are these suggestions which Labour hotly deny that he has been lent on today. There have been suggestions that it's because that he would not be supported in another term as Speaker. There have also been suggestions that he could not be backed for a peerage if he does not comply. I was told earlier today that Sir Keir Starmer met with him personally as well. The Speaker's office say, well, actually, he would have met with anybody. His door is always open. He always wants to talk to MPs about this kind of thing. But that kind of meeting will do nothing to quell these accusations that the Labour Party have lent on Speaker Hoyle in this way, in a way that MPs are really very unhappy with.
And it's unthinkable, actually, it was unthinkable at the beginning of the day that we would start tonight's programme talking about the possible departure of the Speaker of the House of Commons. I mean, I would have thought someone was joking if they said that's what I'd be talking about at 16 minutes past 7.
And even an hour ago, I didn't think that we would get to this point. Like, I texted a few MPs, I called a few, to see what the temperature was, and many of them going, no, Speaker Hoyle, we do like him, even Conservative MPs saying we do respect him, and saying that I think, calls for a vote of confidence have gone too far. But I think after this, I would be interested to see whether those MPs have changed their mind, because the atmosphere which you could feel in the House of Commons tonight was very, very febrile. And actually, when the SNP walked out around an hour ago in response to the fact that the Speaker of the House of Commons was not there, and they were shouting for him, Stephen Flynn screaming for him to come back, the SNP walked out and a whole load of Conservative MPs joined them. So there's clearly palatable anger from across the House.
What an unholy alliance.
Exactly. You've got the SNP and the Conservatives going together. You know something's going down.
In the end, it comes down to basic fairness, doesn't it? And whatever your political views are, I think everyone can see the SNP have been treated appallingly today, and Tory MPs obviously thought that too. I'm watching the screen here in the studio as to what's going in the House of Commons, and the Deputy Speaker is still taking points of order. Now, what's happening on the substantive votes? I mean, on the SNP motion, on the Labour amendment. I mean, we haven't had those votes. Are we going to get them?
I thought we just had them just then. I think they were just nodded through. I could be
nodded through. So there was actually no vote at all.
No vote at all. I think if I misheard, I apologise. But I think I heard the Deputy Speaker Rosie Winston. I think I heard her say the ayes have it. So I think that went through without a division. That's as far as I can concur it. But I could have been mistaken. But that's
a really bad thing for Labour, because Labour MPs still can't say I voted for a ceasefire.
Yes, they've absolutely not got their vote at all. And yes, I'm sure someone will text me if I'm wrong, because, we are trying to follow this live as it happens.
No, you didn't get it wrong. It was correct. Both passed without a vote.
Yeah.
And it was all for what?